Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
Powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena, this is the Morning Sports Desk. I'm CJ Baumgartner, joined by Corey Tackman. Corey, it was such a great night with the Highway 10 Cup yesterday. Down to the wire, New York Mills, Wadena-Deer Creek, a celebration of boys basketball. It was just a great night. We're going to recap it all. But first, Corey, we got to talk about the great things that the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena has to offer.
Yeah, posted one day ago. It starts with "This is big." And let me tell you, CJ, it is big at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Guess what? They are giving away 50,000 FunZone tickets to one lucky FunZone Rewards member in their big ticket giveaway. How do you enter? Oh, it's easy. If you have a FunZone Rewards account with a registered card, you're already automatically entered. If you're not a FunZone Rewards member yet, just scan the QR code. You can see it right now if you're watching the Morning Sports Desk on YouTube or on the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade Facebook page. Scan the QR code and join by the end of the month, February 28th, to get your automatic entry. Then don't forget to add that FunZone card to your new account as well. So the real question is, as they ask, how will you spend your tickets if you win? The big ticket giveaway on now through the end of the month at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in downtown Wadena.
Corey, yesterday was the Highway 10 Cup, and it was between Wadena-Deer Creek and New York Mills. We talked about it on yesterday's show, where the third grade all the way on up through the varsity were going to play, and they were going to keep track of the wins. And whichever team came away with the most amount of wins at the end of the day got to take home the Highway 10 Cup. And it's just a really, really cool thing to have the third graders all the way up to the varsity play in the same day and get to kind of all feel connected. It's a cool idea that New York Mills and Wadena-Deer Creek came up with, but to get to be a part of it yesterday, we put all of the games on KWAD, and it was just a really, really cool thing to be a part of.
A very, very cool thing. I want to do some quick logistics before we break it down, because I want to make sure that Eagles fans and Wolverines fans know what's going on. A full breakdown of yesterday's Highway 10 Cup is up at Wadena-Radio.com. Included in that breakdown are final scores from all of the games, players of the game for all of those games, and a link to the audio archive of the broadcasts. So that way you can go back and listen, which is going to be great if you had to be there in person and you wanted to just hear back and hear your kids' names, or if you've got family members who are outside the listening area, you want to send them there. It's just an awesome, you'll get the full breakdown, like we said, but then you'll be able to listen to as much of the broadcast as possible. It's all up in that local sports section of Wadena-Radio.com. I encourage you to check that out.
I also encourage you to follow Sports Cow on Facebook.
Moo.
You'll find the article there as well. It's just a cool event to be able to get to go there and to get to be a part of things. Things kicked off with the 6th grade game between those two schools in the main gym. And I was talking with Wadena-Deer Creek head boys basketball coach Kevin Thunberg a little bit later in the afternoon. And even the Wadena-Deer Creek coaching staff, they said, yeah, our bus was coming over from the Wadena to New York Mills. And they're like, let's flip it on. So they were listening to the game as they were coming. The high school kids were listening to that 6th grade game, and they were like, this is cool. This is awesome. They're like, our players were getting excited about it. So it was just a really cool thing to make it all feel connected in one way, and to have all those games broken down, and to give those kids the time on the radio, which is exactly the thing we were trying to do. We gave out some players of the game. Overall, it was just personally, it was just a really cool thing to get to be a part of, and one of my favorite broadcasts ever.
Yeah, it really was. You know, it's funny. Every once in a while, I get questions from family or friends like, you know, what's the What's the coolest thing you've done? And it's neat because like on the surface, you'd be like, well, I've called a game at US Bank Stadium and Target Field and the Target Center and Williams Arena. And those are really neat venues to get into. And to be in those venues is cool. But what makes them cool is like it's fun to go to a Vikings game in US Bank Stadium. Like it's just kind of grand that way. But what makes the broadcast worthwhile is like, well, I'm here covering Henning boys basketball at the state tournament. That's why this is so neat, because they are in this building.
Right. Because
Browerville Eagle Valley is at US Bank Stadium. Because fill in the Parker's Prairie is playing at Target Field, right? There's so many different opportunities. And those seem like the obvious answers on the surface to that question. But I've been thinking about this a lot since yesterday, as we were getting ready to go over, and how excited I was getting to do these games. And I put this along with the Special Olympics broadcast we did about a year ago as quite possibly my two favorite broadcasts ever. The significance of why I got into radio, like all came into one, like the Venn diagram formed into one circle. You know what I mean? Like it's high school sports. It's about being a part of a community. It's about X, Y, Z, ABC, all coming together in one, like just in its purest form. It was just the coolest thing to be a part of a 6-hour broadcast that was comprehensive from front to finish. And then the number of people who I know talked to you beforehand and afterwards, and talked to me beforehand and afterwards about this was just really neat. And a couple of them like, man, I would have killed to have been on the radio in the 3rd grade. And when I'm setting up the radio station, talking to the coaches, getting ready for my 3rd grade game, one of the kids goes, "We're on the radio? Yo, we're on the radio." And he yelled it out to the rest of his team. He was skipping layup line for some reason. I don't know what was going on. But it was, it was just a special experience.
It's one that we don't get to do very often, and it's one that we really would love to do every single year. So we're hoping that this event grows and we get to do more. And really, the two schools are the ones that thought of it. We're glomming onto it, but we're glomming onto it because we think it's cool and we think it's a great idea. And we're hoping to do more of that in the future. I do want to give a shout out. I know we talked about the recap, so we don't need to get into every single game, but I think it is fair that we should shout out our players of the game.
Yes.
For each game. So there were 8 games in total yesterday, and we picked a player of the game from each team. That player of the game, Corey, got what?
They got a little certificate and then an arch card to McDonald's.
Yeah. That's every kid's dream. They get recognized by the radio, and then they get to go to McDonald's. I mean, name a better combo other than the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade, which is obviously the greatest place. But,
and by kid, you mean a 9-year-old 3rd grader and a 40-year-old broadcaster, correct?
Anywhere in between.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in the 6th grade, game 1, we have Braden DeYoung for Wadena-Deer Creek. For New York Mills, it was Nolan Uzelman. For the 3rd grade game for Wadena-Deer Creek, Zamari Higgins. For New York Mills, the player of the game was Kaiser Hendricks. For the C Squad game for Wadena-Deer Creek, Keenan Lemkel. For New York Mills, it was Camden Menz, who, by the way, got a buzzer beater tip in at the very end of the game to give the Eagles the win. Really, really fun game in overtime on that one. In the 4th grade game, Wadena-Deer Creek player of the game, Callan Martin. For New York Mills, it was Brody Hammer. In the 6th grade game 2 for Wadena-Deer Creek, Dastin DeGroat was the Wadena-Deer Creek player of the game. For New York Mills, it was Jackson Hendricks. In the JV game for Wadena-Deer Creek, Owen Hillicup. For New York Mills, it was Jeremy Kopweiler. In the 5th grade game, Reed Kern for the Wolverines. For the Eagles, it was Henry Schick. And in the varsity game, to wrap everything up, it was Matt Kopp and Finn Roeder. Matt Kopp for Wadena-Deer Creek, Finn Roeder for New York Mills. And I think that gets us into the recap of today's a contest, which was we saw a really, really fun and electric first half in that varsity game between Wadena-Deer Creek and New York Mills. And then in that second half, the Eagles had a 20-3 run or a 20-2 run to start the half. And that's when we looked at the team and went, yeah, that's the team that's been rocking all season long.
It's funny sometimes how basketball can be effectively a 0-0 game. Like you could whittle a basketball game down to, in this instance, about 6 minutes of game time, maybe 7, maybe 8, right? It was effectively tied the whole first half. And then the halftime buzzer hit and the Eagles just kind of found themselves up 4 points. And then that was maybe over the last minute. And then over the first 6 minutes of the second half, I think 18-2. And then another bucket there to get that 20-2 margin that you mentioned. But we're talking about 36 minutes of basketball that really could have been whittled down to about 6.
Right.
And that 6 minute fury from New York Mills to start the second half was all it took. That was because it was pretty even. They got to that margin and then they played even the rest of the way again. I think it's I think that's an oversimplification of the breakdown of that game, but when that Eagles team decides to turn on the Jets, that it's a hard team to stay in front of.
Exactly. The Rotor boys definitely made it tough on Wadena-Deer Creek as well. Finn Rotor getting to the cup at will, got himself 20 points for a player of the game, but Bergen Rotor finished with like 16 points. He had a few threes, including which got one right at the end of the half, Corey, and we talked about it in the halftime break. You're like, well, it's probably good for the Wolverines that he made that three. So now he'll cool off at halftime. First bucket of the second half was him burying a three in the left corner, then getting a steal on the press and turning it into a layup. A quick 5-0 start for the Eagles, thanks to Bergen Rotor. How'd that feel?
I think he made his next 3 shots, and I've seen Bergen play now. This is the 3rd time. I've seen the Eagles play 3 times this year, and Bergen is a kid who, like, if all he needs to do is see it go through once, and it's all of a sudden the golf-sized cup turns into an ocean. So, it was like, it's probably good for Wadena. This happened right before the half and not earlier because you don't need that ocean to open up for Bergen. And I thought maybe the halftime would be just enough of a breather. Nope. He saw it go in. That's all he needed. And then, I think he made his next 3 shots. And those next 3 shots were all within that 6-minute window we talked about to start the second half.
Crazy. It was crazy. Wadena-Deer Creek, they had a couple things that didn't necessarily go their way with Kern going down in the first half. Really just a big presence down low. And it did have an impact because New York Mills really wanted to get to the cup and muscle down low. And he was preventing that with the long frame. And when he went down with an ankle injury, he didn't return in the game. Don't know what his status is. Hope he's okay. But that was certainly one for the Wolverines that they lost a player that they were really hoping schematically was going to help them in that game. And they played hard, they fought hard, they got the stuff that they needed to get. But as we mentioned on the broadcast, Corey, the pressure for the Wolverines just a little bit too tough to handle. Those Eagles get after it, and they were swarming, and there wasn't much that the Wolverines could do. And there's not a thing a lot of teams in the Park region could have done when the Eagles are on their game like they were last night.
Yeah, I said it during the broadcast. I really like this New York Mills team. I think they are. When I say they're good, it sounds like I'm understating it. They're a good basketball team. And this is putting the cart before the horse here, but I feel bad for them. They're in the section that they're in because they're in the best section in the state, right? They've got at least 3 teams in front of them. I don't know where they rank, but there's 3 teams in front of them who are,
it's Pelican, Henning, Breckenridge. I think that's the order it goes.
Who would be the number 1 team in 8AA? They'd all be the number 1 team in 8-3A. You know what I mean? Like they're just in a gauntlet of a section. But they're really nice, and they will not go quietly into the night. Come tournament time, will this Eagles team? I would really hate to face New York Mills the rest of this season. I would really hate it. And then for Wadena-Deer Creek, and I mean this sincerely. I know we're not in the business of moral victories. I know Coach Thunberg isn't in the business of moral victories, but sometimes when the season goes the way it goes, you have to take them where you can get them, right? That's the best I've seen Wadena-Deer Creek play this season. And
They put together a nice game.
I don't go to as many games as you do, CJ, in person, but let me tell you what, these huddle cameras have been life-changing for high school sports fans like myself, and I've seen a lot of Wadena-Deer Creek this year, and this was outside of, let's call it a 7-minute stretch of game time where it just got away. They played an unbelievable first 18 minutes. Honest to goodness. It's some of the best basketball they played. It was some of the most assertive, understanding who they are and the roles and what they're trying to accomplish basketball that they played all year long. And man, that matters. That matters in February.
It does. And by the way, when they gave up that 20-2 run, they could have just quit and the game could have unraveled and they could have lost by 35. And instead it was a 15-point loss. So like they definitely could have quit and rolled over and been like, well, that's how it goes. That's how the season's gone. But they did fight until the end and they made Mills work for it.
I know it's corny, but it's also some of these like coaching platitudes that exist. They exist because at one point someone said it for the first time and it was true. You need to be playing your best basketball at the end of the season. The point of the season is to be playing better at the end of the year than you were at the beginning of the year. And if that game was an indicator for Wadena-Deer Creek, that is an unbelievably good indicator. It's important for them to be playing good basketball because at times they haven't. And I don't think that's disrespectful to say it that way. They played a nice basketball game in a time where, and against an opponent who that they played an opponent that can bury people.
Mm-hmm.
That was like everything about that game was to me what the point of the Highway 10 Cup rivalry is all about.
Exactly.
That's exactly what that was about. I just enjoyed that experience so much yesterday.
Wadena-Deer Creek did not win the varsity game, but they did take home the Highway 10 Cup, getting the victory. It was tied 4-4 at the end of the night with all the games played that day, but the junior high game counted. So games, either way, they were Wadena-Deer Creek swept the junior high slate, and they were able to come away with the victory of the Highway 10 Cup. Corey got a picture of the trophy ceremony yesterday, and them holding the big old trophy, and now it's 2-1. New York Mills had it last year. Wadena-Deer Creek had it the first year, and the Wolverines now have it again after the third go-around. So, like you said, building the rivalry, it's just a really fun, simple idea that I'm just calling out here. More teams should do it. That'd be awesome.
Well, and I think about the Wadena and Wadena-Deer Creek and Park Rapids in hockey have the Highway 71 Cup. Like it's a really neat idea. So let me just throw this out there, if I may, CJ.
Okay.
I would be thrilled for understand. I could say anybody here. Okay. I could say anybody. It doesn't matter. The point is the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
But Monaga, Sabika, Pillager, Staples, Motley, Bertha, Hewitt, Verndale. I'm just saying some of these other rivalries exist out there. Let's tack a trophy onto this sucker and make it a big darn deal. And then, for the love of God, don't put them all on the same day so we can come.
I thought you were going to say tell us about them, but yes, that is also true.
Yeah.
Tell us if you're going to do it, and then make sure that you coordinate that it's not the same day as everybody else, because we will go to them. If you plan it, we will come. It was so fun. It was so fun to get to see those kids run around, to get to see all of that. Zeke was chasing down players of the game and getting pictures with them. And it was just really, really cool. And expect a photo dump coming later to Sports Cow on Facebook, where we'll put all that down. That's what we call a plug and a tease. And all of that's going to come out. So it was just really, really fun to put a bow on it. We could go gush all day about how cool it was to be a part of that. I think you get the gist by now. We're 20 minutes in. So, Corey, let's just wrap up quickly. This doesn't need a big, long discussion, but it is an update about the Minnesota Timberwolves and their pursuit of Giannis. I don't really want to talk about the game last night. They stunk. The Wolves and Giannis, it looks like the Wolves are one of the most aggressive teams for him. The Bucks have apparently been underwhelmed by all of the trades offers that have been put out there. They don't want Miami's offer. They don't want Golden State's offer. And basically, we mentioned this on yesterday's show, by the way, Milwaukee could just take their ball and go home and be like, we don't want to deal with this. We're done. Like, we'll talk to you in summer. And, honestly, Corey, it might be more beneficial for the Wolves if they do wait till the summer, because they'll have a little bit more draft capital, because they can't trade this summer's draft pick, but they could draft a player and trade him. There, some wonky things with the collective bargaining open up. But the Wolves theoretically would have a better path to Giannis in the summer rather than trying to make a deal right now. That being said, you make the move because you want to win a title, and Giannis isn't getting any younger, and you're in a position now to make a run. So basically, if you were to gut check me on this one, Corey, Giannis isn't going to be a Timberwolf this by the end of the week, but he could be by the summer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's you get caught up a little bit in the whirlwind of like, this yacht that's picking up steam, and for once your favorite team is kind of in the mix of one of
and these. Not only that, like, the player is interested in going. Like,
yeah, but there's also this, like, again, for the first time ever, there's like, is Jaden and Nas and Julius all too much? Like, yeah, probably. That's probably. So there's this weird, like, because the Timberwolves are who they are now, and for the last, let's say, 5 seasons, there's like, you have to have real, like, the Timberwolves have to make for now decisions rather than for eventually decisions.
It's part of the reason you trade for Gobert, right? Like, you are like, we got to go for it.
And Anthony Edwards just provides this organizational opportunity because he exists in your uniform, in your city, in your state, for your team. Your win now window is the thing that windows don't exist except for when they're open. Like, you can't project it will be open. You can't project when it's going to close. It either opens or it closes. And as long as Anthony Edwards is on your team and healthy, it's open. So this is like we haven't existed as Timberwolves fans where right now has been so urgent. It hasn't happened very often. Right now is the most urgent thing in the Timberwolves building. It's why some of the playing rotations are what they are. And it's why Giannis is a thing, and why they'll still probably go get a guard before this is all said and done, because they need one. It's why maybe Giannis, like, the right now is the most interesting thing for the Timberwolves. It's a fun sort of roller coaster as a Wolves fan to be on, but it's scary and intimidating to be like, holy crap, they're going to give up Nas and Jaden and Julius, like, for Giannis, and who's the other starter on this team? Who's the third or fourth team involved in this? So the Timberwolves have a roster spot. I know I'm rambling, but like, this is such a fascinating, because the Timberwolves don't do this. Minnesota teams don't do this. They just offload guys and will regroup in 2028.
Right. And that's something that this franchise hasn't been a part of. And it's the classic, I want our team to trade for a star. Trades for a star. No, not like that, because you have to give up something good. If you want to use a Twins example, you have to give up Luis Ariz to get a Pablo Lopez. You have to give up a guy who's batting champion to get a guy who you think can hold the ball for you in a playoff game and go 7 innings. Like, you got to give somebody good to get somebody good. It's not, the meme that goes around. It's like, I trade. It's like, your best player. You receive all the things that I want to get rid of on my team. Yankees fans do it all the time, or there's a player on their team that they don't like. Like, what if we traded to the Dodgers for Shohei Ohtani? They'll take him. Like, you got to be realistic in that.
Have you ever played fantasy football with an idiot?
Or somebody who thinks that they're fleecing you?
Like, that's not how this works.
I have prime Calvin Johnson. I'm not giving him to you for Matt Forte.
Or like you want to trade me your kicker and your defense for Patrick Mahomes? Respectfully, curb stomp yourself. This doesn't make sense. That's not how this works.
Right. And
You're
so
an idiot.
And so Jaden and Naz and Julius, I mean, Julius feels like if you're going to trade for Giannis, Julius has to go. They play the same position. And I think as much as we appreciate Julius, I think it's Giannis. But what has to go is going to have to be Jaden and Naz. I mean, Naz probably goes as well, but I think Jaden McDaniels is really the holdup in everybody's fans. We love Naz. Naz is a great player, one of the best six-man in the league, and that's underrated, and we can't take that for granted. But we also can't take for granted Jaden McDaniels and how, I mean, his three-point shooting numbers have gone up 10% from last year. He's shooting 44% from three now. He is a guy who is started to take that outside shooting step and to really become that 3-and-D player he was envisioned of being. He's starting to come into his own now in his sixth season in the league. And so it's one of those where, you know, do you trade a guy like Jaden McDaniels, who not a lot of teams have a guy like that they could trade, but also you do lose something in that. So it's the fine line of you have to give something up to get something, but is the risk worth the reward? And I think in the eyes of Tim Connolly, you have Anthony Edwards. You have to do everything you can to win that guy a title. And as much as you love Jaden McDaniels, maybe the calculus for him is Ant and Giannis will just be so good, we'll figure something else out.
The precedent, though, exists elsewhere in the NBA, and it's obvious, maybe, I think and hope it's obvious, but it's in Boston with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Like, it was a given from the beginning, always with the Celtics, that our team is built around these two guys and forming our organization around the identities of these two guys. And then one day, God forbid, Jason Tatum pops his Achilles. Jaylen Brown can be an early season MVP candidate the next year and help lead what should be a rebuilding season into, like, are we a top 2 team in the conference? That precedent exists, and the idea of keeping guys together and building camaraderie, like, I'm also okay with that. Like, I understand who would you rather have, Giannis or Jaden. I get the, like, on the surface, it's not a hard pick. There's no one on the planet who would pick Jaden over Giannis, because Giannis does all of the things that Jaden does, and he's 7 feet tall. But there's this, like, you can do it around these two guys. I hate to call it Jordan Pippen. I don't want to do that. I think that's disrespectful to Jordan and Pippen. But, like, you've got these two guys who have only ever played together and seemingly love each other, that you can work through some of this and build an organizational infrastructure around two guys. You don't have to build it around LeBron, one guy. It can be this two-headed monster. And man, just go get a point guard. Also, get firing. Like, if you're going to get Jaden, you have to get more than just Giannis back. There has to be a bona fide starter in return for the Timberwolves in this situation, period.
The Wolves have been making calls to 3 teams, heck, like 4-team trades they've been working on. Like, expect Tim Connolly to exhaust every option. But yeah, it just feels like the Bucks are going to take their ball and go home. And apparently there's been reports like basically the Bucks are putting him on the market to establish what his value is. And then in the summertime, like, they already just got the ball rolling for the summer.
Well, and this is the scenario, right, where they have all the leverage in this situation.
Right.
We don't have to dump Giannis. Right. You have to take him from us.
Right. You have to take him from us. Don't you want to make a postseason push?
So he's the Pharaoh. Bring me your bumper crop. This is that simple. Make an offer that's too good to refuse.
And thank goodness it looks like Kevin Harden's going to the Cavs. Or James Harden, excuse me. James Harden's going to the Cavs.
Man, I tell you what, I would kill to be a franchise that just has to like wallow because we got to have LeBron James for a little. You know what I mean?
Right.
The amount of misery I'd be willing to accept for Anthony Edwards to get me a title.
Right.
Like to 20 years later be like, James Harden's going to have to be your point guard. Fine. That's fine. Yeah, Anthony Edwards win me a title. Give me 36-year-old Trae Young as my point guard when that time comes. Right. What? Fine. I accept the offer, CJ.
Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. See ya.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.